Hey, this is Justin with DayTradeTheMarkets.com and wanted to look at the market today and talk about this idea of confluence trading again and look at some really outstanding confluence opportunities that we had today, including a great trade into the close. Basically, the idea of confluence trading, if you're not familiar, is that you have several pieces of evidence or data, and that if you have the patience and the discipline to wait for several of those pieces to line up or come together, so to speak, it leads to a high probability trading opportunity. And again, I like to be very clear. High probability doesn't mean 100%, doesn't mean always win. Don't want you to think anything like that. But as a trader, certainly your goal is to increase your edge into getting to high expectancy or high probability type of trade setups, and that's really what we're shooting for here. We're not going to be 100%, we're not going to be perfect, but we want to be high probability. Okay, so we have several pieces of evidence that we look at. In bigger picture, in other words, prior to the day or homework from the night before, so to speak, we talk about our bigger picture bias. And we also talk about some bigger picture support resistance areas. So those kind of we try to stay on the right side of the markets, swimming downstream, so to speak, bigger picture. And then in real time, as the day unfolds, we have other pieces of evidence. We have relative aggression bars, which really get right to the heart of the auction or the order flow and tell you which side, buyers or sellers, are more aggressive. Because if you can stay in line with the more aggressive side, obviously your odds go way up. It also can help you hone in on some really good, precise areas of trade location where you don't have to risk much to know if you're wrong, and if you're right, you have a pretty high reward ratio, so to speak. We also have deceleration bars, which tell us when the market's essentially slowing down or decelerating. We have intraday support resistance zones, which are the green and red zones drawn on the chart in real time, showing you, a green zone is an area where it's a good place to be a buyer, and an area where you want to think twice before being a seller, and the opposite for the red zones. And then we have the intraday directional filter, which is in real time, and that's you can see that today we started neutral and then we turned to strongly bearish very early, actually near the lows of the day. So again, it's telling us which side within this session is the path of least resistance. So the idea is that each of these pieces of evidence on their own are really nice. They're nice pieces of evidence, but when you can wait for a situation where these were 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of these even situation where 5 of these line up, you have a very high probability opportunity. So I wanted to illustrate a couple of those opportunities possibly today, and show you ways that you could have used this tool to help you get into a high probability setup. So again, heading into the day, we talk about our bigger picture bias, and that was up heading into the day. So again, all things being equal, we would rather be on the long side. So now we're looking for long opportunities. The other thing is that, again, our filter basically on the low of the day goes strongly bullish, because it's, again, looking at the order flow. It's looking at what's going on under the surface to tell you which side is most likely the right side, so to speak, or the path of least resistance, keep you out of trouble as well. Then we have these areas that formed. This didn't form until about midday, but we have a support resistance. You can see it sold off about a point before it busted through, and then another support zone that forms once we broke out. So we have that, and we also have these deceleration bars, which are these triangles or dots, which are showing you that on the short term the market's decelerating, so it's a likely turning point in the market. Again, looking at the order flow. So in terms of just looking for straight confluence ideas or situations where a lot of these pieces of evidence come together, I mean, we had a beautiful set of them toward the end of the day, which was right in here, anywhere in here, here. Again, with the idea that bigger picture bias is up. So is that in favor? Yes. Filter is dark green or strongly bullish, so that's in favor of getting long. This location right near this intraday support zone is certainly bullish. Then we have some decelerations also, which are showing you, precise turning points if you want to wait for those. In terms of our bigger picture levels, we had a level around 12 right here. So you can see that the market had traded above there. So if anything, this 12 should act as support. It wasn't exactly on 12, but it's certainly telling us we're on the right side of things. So again, you've got a situation where numerous pieces of evidence are lining up. So we had about 4 to 5 pieces of evidence lining up beautifully right in this area in here. Okay, so could that trade have lost? Of course. The thing could have turned around and gone to 1300, but it's a high probability entry. It's a confluence. It's a situation where a lot of evidence is coming together, so it's higher probability. I also want to talk about We also talk about this idea that we call direction then location, where we want to use the evidence that we have to determine what our most likely market direction is. And once we have a handle on that, then hone in on very good trade location, what we call trade location. So it's, in other words, a place where you can get into the market. You don't have to risk much if you're wrong, and if you're right, pretty high reward possibility. So I want to talk about, we have in our training, we talk about several different trade types. We have a continuation trades, pullback trades, reversal trades, and I wanted to kind of zoom in on a couple of those as well, because again, our bigger picture bias was up. Our filter early in the day was strongly bullish, so we knew we wanted to be on the long side if we could. So where are some high probability entries? That's the question we would ask next. Let me actually zoom in on the chart here one second. Okay, so I've zoomed in on the first part of the day here, and I want to talk about what we call a reversal trade. And again, with these trade types, we have some pretty good rules for them, but you want to make sure you're using context. And in this case, again, our bigger picture bias is up, and overnight our support zone was basically hit to the tick. So all signs are saying, okay, our bigger picture bias, which was up, is still in play, or it's still supported at this point. So we're looking for ways to get into the market long. You can see we have a structure that we call a high velocity move right here made by sellers, but with that said, we couldn't even get a full bar below that. Okay, so that's typically when we get a high velocity move like this on the high or low of the day, it's telling us it's either the beginning of a vertical move lower, or it's going to be capitulation, and it's a good reversal point, and the expectation would be for a move higher. Well, in this case, because we had no follow through, we didn't even have a full bar below, we're looking for a potential reversal. And you can see that in this case we had 2-3 full bars below, or full bars above, the high of this high velocity move right in here. So that's telling us, again, in the context of bigger picture bias up, in the context of the filter, which we know is going to be switching very, very soon, it's telling us we want to be on board long. So a good trade entry location, this is what we call a high velocity move reversal trade, is to be a buyer on the high of this high velocity move box if there's no follow through, and then there's follow through above. It's telling us reversal. So we wanted to be a buyer right in this area if we have other evidence, other context, which we certainly did with an up bias and the overnight support holding basically to the tick. Okay, hopefully that makes some sense. Let me look at another example here, which was well, we also have what we call a continuation trade, where if we get again, with context, bigger picture bias up, our filters strongly bullish, we had a wave of what we call level 2 buying aggression bars right in here. Our expectation with that, if we have context, is that the low of that should hold as pretty good support. So that's what we call a continuation trade. So buying in here certainly made pretty good sense. Okay. Then we have what we call I meant to call this a retracement trade. I don't know if I called it a continuation or a retracement, but I was trying to call it a retracement trade, where we're buying at the low of that. You can see we had this wave of buying here, no follow through, but we have the up auction in place and the filter. So our expectation is that the low of this bar is going to act as support. Okay, so that's the retracement trade. We also have what we call the continuation trade, which is if we get one of these structures, in this case a high velocity move right here. But in this case, and you can see the high velocity move right in here, in this case we had immediate follow through. We didn't even retest the low, which would have been our expectation. We just had immediate follow through, okay, higher. So then we're thinking at that point we'd like to be a buyer toward the high of that box. So again, with context of bigger picture bias being up, filter being green, that's another place that you could be looking to get into the market, is right in this area here. So that's kind of the idea, where we talk about some trade setup possibilities beyond just these pure confluence ideas where 3 or 4 pieces of evidence line up. So in other words, if you can get a pretty good handle on direction, which all of our evidence was telling us was up, then you're looking for trade entry locations, and we talk about different reversal trade setups, different retracement trade setups, different continuation trade setups, and so forth, all in our training. So again, the idea, high probability, high edge opportunities, keep you on the right track of the market, and so forth. So hopefully that makes some sense. Have a great weekend, and let us know if you have questions about that. Thanks.